Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're diving into how to write nurture emails that build trust and drive sales.
Oh, this is a big one.
It really is.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, our inboxes these days, they feel like crowded battlegrounds where we're all just scanning, milliseconds to decide keep, delete, or maybe later if you're lucky.
It's the brutal reality, isn't it? For anyone trying to actually connect with subscribers, most messages just get lost in the noise, not necessarily because they're bad messages, but because they fail to connect. You probably feel this every time you glance at your own inbox.
Totally. But here's what's fascinating and honestly really powerful. The businesses or even individuals who truly master email nurture, they somehow cut through all that noise. Their messages don't just land, they get opened, they get read. And critically, they get acted upon. People actually start looking forward to seeing their name pop up.
And that's where the real impact lies, yeah? They're consistently turning curious readers into loyal customers, often just through words delivered consistently to an inbox. I mean, it remains one of the most personal and, incredibly profitable channels available for building relationships at scale.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the mission for this deep dive is to give you a practical system, a framework, really, for crafting nurture emails that command attention and drive action. These are skills that tap into fundamental human psychology, which, doesn't really change that much.
Yeah.
So they'll serve you for years no matter how the tech evolves.
Exactly. It's complex because of all that noise, but understanding how to cut through it with genuine connection, that's where the immense reward comes from.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We talk about nurture emails. How are they different? What are they even for, fundamentally?
Right. At its core, a nurture email is about building a relationship over time. It's not just shouting about a discount or, sending a receipt that's transactional. It's about providing real value, like education, insights, maybe even a bit of relevant entertainment sometimes. The focus is really on understanding and solving your subscribers' problems first.
So not like a weekly roundup newsletter then?
Right. Or just a blast promoting your latest sale. That's promotional. Nurture emails speak directly to where someone is in their potential journey with you and what they need right then to move forward, the best ones. They feel like a trusted colleague sharing something genuinely helpful. They acknowledge challenges, offer potential solutions, build trust, so that if and when you do introduce an offer, it feels like a natural, almost welcomed next step.
Got it. Building that trusted connection before you even think about the ask. So back to the crowded inbox, knowing that is the battleground, how do we make our messages stand out? How do they not just vanish?
It absolutely has to start with truly understanding the person you're writing to. No way around it. We know professionals are wading through, hundreds of emails daily, easily. A generic message, it's instantly filtered out by the brain, gone. But a message that feels like it's meant just for them, that connects.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. It's not just about being a good writer in some general sense. It's about knowing who you're writing to on a much deeper level. How do we actually move from just a list of email addresses to that kind of understanding?
The absolute foundation is segmentation. You just cannot treat everyone on your list as one homogeneous blob. It doesn't work. You need to divide them into distinct groups based on shared characteristics. Think of it like organizing a library, right? If all the books are just dumped in one massive pile, nothing stands out. But if they're grouped by genre or topic, you can find exactly what someone's looking for.
Okay, that makes sense. And what kind of grouping dimensions are most useful for email nurture? What should we focus on?
Well, we typically look at 4 main dimensions. There's demographics, age, location, the basic stuff. Firmographics, if you're B2B company size, industry, their role, super important there. Then there's behavior. This is huge. What pages did they visit on your site? What emails have they clicked before? What have they purchased? And finally, psychographics, their values, interests, lifestyle, motivations, what makes them tick. You can segment statically, like location that doesn't change often.
Right.
Or dynamically, where someone automatically enters a segment because they took a recent action, like click the last 3 emails about topic X.
Right. And where do you even get all this data from?
Good question. Your email platform's tags and fields are a starting point, what people give you up front. Website behavior tracking tells you a lot about their intent and what they're actually interested in right now. Purchase history is obvious, tells you interests. But a truly powerful, and I'd say increasingly important, source is zero-party data.
Ah, Zero-party data. This is the information someone actively shares with you, right? Like filling out a profile or checking boxes in a preference center.
Exactly. Information they proactively give you because hopefully they trust you and they want a better experience. Things like survey responses, profile details they fill out, preference selections. It's absolutely vital in today's privacy-first world because it's consent-based, it's transparent, and it allows for really rich personalization. And when you immediately show value from the data they just shared, it builds even more trust. They become willing partners and getting more relevant communication.
Okay, so segmentation is about organizing the data into useful groups. But how do we take that data, those groups, and turn them into actual people that we can picture and write to, not just segment B?
That's where actionable personas come in. This is where it gets fun. We take those segments and we give them life. Not just a dry demographic profile, but a vivid character that captures their psychological triggers. What do they really need? Give them a name. Seriously, give them a name. A clear goal they're trying to achieve, their most pressing pain point. What keeps them up at night? Their specific objection to your kind of solution, why won't they buy? What's holding them back? A trigger event that sparks the urgency to actually solve the problem. And this is key. Their exact phrases when they talk about this product.
Their exact words, like literally the words they use. Where do you find those?
The gold mine. Customer reviews, support tickets, sales call transcripts if you have them, comments on social media, forum discussions related to your niche. That's where you hear the authentic language, the raw emotion. It's invaluable.
Okay, give us an example. Paint a picture of what a persona might look like.
Okay, let's imagine double duty Sarah. Picture this. She's juggling her demanding full-time job as a marketing manager, and she's trying to build her own freelance graphic design business on the side. Her big goal: financial independence, eventually quitting the 9-to-5. That's the dream. Her pain: time management is an absolute nightmare. She feels constantly overwhelmed, guilty that she's not giving enough attention to either her job or her side hustle.
Oh yeah, I know people just like that. So what's her main hang-up then? Her objection to, say, a new productivity tool or course?
Her objection is probably that any new system, any new tool, is just going to be more work up front. Another thing to learn, another login, more complexity when I'm already swamped. That's her fear, her triggers. Maybe month-end financial stress when the freelance income isn't quite hitting the mark she needs. Or that dreaded Sunday night anxiety thinking about the crushing week ahead and how she'll fit it all in. And her phrases. You'd hear her say things like, I'm spread so thin, or there just aren't enough hours in the day. Maybe I need this side thing to be sustainable. I can't afford to burn out.
Wow. Yeah. Writing an email to double duty Sarah feels completely different than writing to women 30-45 interested in design. You can actually picture her.
Exactly. Now your subject lines can speak directly to her experience. Maybe something like, finally, client work that fits around your day job. Your opening paragraph can validate that Sunday night dread she feels. Your calls to action can address her objection directly. Maybe, see the 10-minute morning routine that replaced 3 hours of scattered effort for designers like you. Everything becomes incredibly targeted and feels personal, like you get her.
And you mentioned you can validate those persona details with simple polls in emails too, right? Keep them fresh. Like asking, hey, what's your biggest challenge with topic right now? Or what's your #1 goal for the next 90 days?
Absolutely. Those little micro feedback loops are great. They keep your persona sharp and relevant, not just assumptions.
Okay, what about digging even deeper? Getting inside their heads, understanding not just what they do, but what they feel.
That's where the empathy map comes in. It's a fantastic tool. You segment not just data, but what subscribers think and feel privately, what they see and hear in their environment, like what influencers they follow or media they consume, what they say and do publicly, and ultimately their core pains and gains, what frustrates them, what delights them. Filling that map out with real quotes and observed behaviors reveals their underlying psychological triggers.
Like identity confirmation, social proof, those kinds of deep-seated drivers.
Exactly. Loss aversion, the desire for status elevation, the universal craving for simplification. These are powerful motivators.
Let's compare two subject lines again. Generic. Our latest project management features. Now, apply empathy to a designer like Sarah. When your client asks for just one more revision, if you're a designer reading that, your brain just screams, yes, that's my life. You almost have to open it to see what comes next.
That's a massive difference in potential engagement right there.
Yeah.
Huge. How do you uncover those deeper emotional drivers, though? That seems harder. It often comes from looking beyond just the surface data. Sentiment analysis and reviews or social media comments can be really insightful. What's the emotion behind the words? And honestly, customer interviews are gold. Ask someone point blank, what were you feeling right before you decided to purchase this? What emotion really pushed you over the edge? The answers you get are often incredibly revealing about the true drivers. So if we connect this all back to the beginning, combining smart segmentation, vivid personas built on real data, and deep empathy mapping is precisely how you transform those generic broadcasts that just vanish into anticipated conversations that actually connect and resonate.
That perspective shift alone is so powerful. Okay, so for you listening, your actionable takeaway here. Think about one key group you email frequently. Can you name their biggest pain point in their exact words, like we just did with Sarah? Try it. Okay, so we know who we're talking to on a really deep level now. That's huge. The next logical step seems to be figuring out what to say to them and when to actually reach them. That brings us to mapping the journey, right?
Precisely. The journey blueprint. It's all about mapping a clear, predictable path for each subscriber segment toward a purchase or whatever your desired outcome is. It's really about aligning your content precisely with where they are in their decision-making process at that moment.
Yeah.
We generally see a common 4-stage journey that most people follow more or less predictably.
Okay, break down those stages for us. What are they?
So, first stage, awareness. They're just starting to realize they might have a problem or a need. Their inner question is something like, do I even have this problem, or is this relevant to me? Your content goal here is to validate that potential pain point, show them they're not alone. Short stories, relatable anecdotes, compelling statistics work well here. Second stage, consideration. Okay, now they accept they have the problem, or at least they're exploring it. They're thinking, okay, what solutions actually exist out there for this? Your content needs to demonstrate your authority, explain how different solutions work, offer comparisons, maybe detailed guides or webinars. Third stage, decision. Now they're actively comparing specific options, maybe yours versus a competitor's. They're asking, is this specific solution worth it? Is it too risky, too expensive, too complicated? Your content here needs to remove those obstacles. Think social proof like case studies, testimonials, addressing specific objections head-on, offering guarantees or trials. And finally, stage 4, loyalty. They've made the purchase, they're a customer. Now they're thinking, did I make the right choice? Or how do I get the most out of this? Your goal shifts to building the relationship further. Offer tips for success, exclusive content, invite them into a community, maybe even turn them into advocates.
Got it. So the message, the type of content, changes dramatically depending on where they are in that flow. But what about when we send these emails? Timing must be critical too, right? Feels like it.
Timing is huge, absolutely. It determines if your message feels like a helpful insight arriving just when needed, or just another annoying interruption. For new leads just entering a nurture sequence, a typical cadence might be something like 3 to 5 emails spread over 10-14 days. Just an example. The key rule we often follow is, keep the intervals shorter than memory decay. For consumer decisions, that might mean emailing every 48-72 hours initially. For more complex B2B sales cycles, maybe it's every 3 to 5 days, you have to test what works for your audience.
And then there are the trigger-based emails, right? Those aren't on a fixed schedule at all.
Exactly. Those are powerful because they respond to specific actions the subscriber takes. Someone downloads a specific guide, send an email following up on that exact topic shortly after. They abandon a shopping cart, you absolutely need to reach out, and quickly, they visited your pricing page multiple times in the last week. That's a strong signal of intent. We've seen data proving, for example, that cart abandonment emails convert significantly better if sent within an hour versus waiting 24 hours.
Wow, within an hour.
Yeah, those are hot triggers. They create perfectly timed touch points because the subscriber is actively thinking about that specific topic right then. It capitalizes on existing interest.
Okay, this raises a really important question, maybe the most important. We figured out the right message for the right person, thanks to personas and segments, based on their journey stage timed relatively well. But we still have to get them to actually open the darn email in that absolutely chaotic inbox we talked about at the start. That first hurdle, the open me hook, feels massive. How do we nail that?
It is massive. You're right. Your subject line and that little snippet of text next to it, the pre-header text, they're absolutely critical. They have milliseconds, literally milliseconds, to trigger an emotional response before that finger hits delete or swipes away.
So what's the psychology behind a good hook? What makes someone pause?
It really leverages fundamental human drivers, things like curiosity, that powerful itch you just have to scratch. You see a question, you want the answer. Self-interest, promising a clear outcome or benefit that speaks directly to their goal or pain point. What's in it for me? And novelty, something that disrupts the predictable pattern in their inbox, something unexpected or fresh. We talk about concepts like the curiosity gap, the benefit stack, the pattern break. These are ways to frame those hooks.
Can you give us a few quick examples of phrases that tap into those?
Sure, things like the hidden reason why common problem, that's curiosity, finally stop annoying task, that's self-interest, a clear benefit, what nobody tells you about topic. Again, curiosity, maybe a bit of insider knowledge promised.
Are there reliable structures or, frameworks for crafting these hooks? Like a formula we can use?
Yes, definitely. There are 4 reliable frameworks we see performing consistently well. Number 1, curiosity gap. It teases information, hints at something they don't know, like why most sales pages fail. Great for early nurture when you're building interest. The risk. Big disappointment if your content doesn't fully deliver on the tease. Number 2, benefit first. It leads clearly with the positive outcome. Write emails twice as fast with this method. Excellent for the middle of a sequence when they're problem aware and actively looking for solutions. Just be careful not to oversell or sound hypey. Number 3, personalized mirror. This reflects something specific about the subscriber data you have or a recent behavior. First name, about that guide you downloaded, or still thinking about product they viewed. Super powerful after specific actions, but you have to be careful not to be creepy. Stick to data they clearly know you have or public context. And number 4, pattern break. Something totally unexpected or counterintuitive. We messed up, or this isn't what you think it is. Can be great for re-engagement, snapping them out of autopilot. But it really needs to fit your brand voice, otherwise it feels jarring.
Okay, 4 solid frameworks. How do you figure out which one works best for your specific audience and context? Is it just A/B testing everything?
A/B testing, yes, but systematically. It's key. We often recommend a testing hierarchy. Start by testing the overall concept, which framework resonates most. Curiosity versus benefit. Then optimize a length shorter, often wins on mobile previews, but not always. Then you can test stylistic elements like using emojis, specific punctuation, capitalization, numbers.
And the preheader, that little bit of text next to the subject line, what role does that play?
It's the subject line's essential partner in crime. If the subject line opens a curiosity gap, the preheader can hint at the value or the answer without giving it all away. If the subject line states a benefit, the preheader can add another related benefit or build urgency. They work together to deepen interest and really justify that click to open.
You got to watch out for those spam filters too, I imagine. Can't just use crazy hooks.
Oh, yes. Absolutely critical. Avoid all caps, excessive exclamation points, hacked, and known spam trigger phrases. That's basic deliverability hygiene. But even more critically, the hook must align authentically with the content inside the email. A misleading hook might get you an open once, but it immediately damages trust. And trust is the absolute currency of nurture marketing. You lose that, you lose everything. What's really powerful about this, though, is by understanding these psychological triggers and using these reliable frameworks, you gain a repeatable way to create hooks that actually stop someone scrolling in that chaotic inbox. You can engineer attention.
That is the goal. Okay, awesome. Your actionable takeaway for this section. Look at the subject lines for the last few emails you sent out. Which framework did you primarily use, even accidentally? Or did you not really use one? How could you test a different framework for your very next email to a key segment? All right, brilliant. We've used a great hook. They've opened the email. Success. Now they're actually reading. How do we keep them engaged, keep them scrolling, and then how do we actually get them to take the action we want them to take, to click that link or button?
Okay, this is where story selling comes into play. It's incredibly effective, and the science behind it is fascinating. A subscriber's brain literally changes when they read a good story. It's not passive consumption. Stories create something called neural coupling. The listener's or reader's brain activity starts to sync up with the storyteller's. Pretty cool, right? They also release chemicals like dopamine, reward, motivation, oxytocin, connection, empathy. They build real emotional connection. And the bottom line is people remember stories far, far better than they remember dry statistics or lists of features.
Stories release chemicals. Wow. Tell me more about that. That sounds powerful.
Yeah. Think about it. Cortisol is triggered by tension and conflict in the story. That's what grabs initial attention and focus. What's going to happen? Quote way. Oxytocin builds connection and trust with the characters, especially if they're relatable. That fosters empathy. Dopamine is the feel-good chemical released with anticipation and, crucially, resolution. That's what motivates the reader towards taking action, finding their own resolution. And endorphins can come from humor or moments of delight, creating positive association with your brand. You can strategically tie the pain points from your empathy map directly to the cortisol triggers in your story setup. Hook them with the problem they recognize.
So instead of just saying, learn how our amazing software saves you time,
Yeah,
you'd start with something more like,
exactly. You'd start with something like, last Tuesday, I totally missed my daughter's school play because I was stuck late fixing stupid errors in a spreadsheet. Again, that night, I knew something had to change. See? That immediately establishes personal stakes, real tension, a relatable problem, and it implicitly promises a resolution is coming. We've seen that simple shift from fact-based intro to story-based intro dramatically increase engagement and click-through rates. People lean in.
okay, so storytelling entertains, but storytelling is strategic. Is that the difference?
Precisely. Storytelling is about crafting the narrative itself, which is important. Story selling is about strategically embedding your solution, your offer, as a natural, logical resolution to the narrative tension you've carefully created. You're showing, not just telling, the transformation your offer enables. You make it the bridge. And it's not manipulative when done right. It positions your solution as the helpful guide that gets the hero, your subscriber, from their current pain to their desired future state described in the story.
Okay, just like with the subject line hooks, are there repeatable frameworks or structures for story selling in emails?
Yes, absolutely. And again, you choose them based on where the subscriber likely is in their journey. We find three main ones work really well. First, problem, agitate, relief, PR. You start with a scene vividly showing a relatable problem they experience. Then you agitate it, deepen the stakes, explore the negative consequences, make the pain feel more real. Finally, you pivot to the relief your solution provides. This is perfect for the awareness stage, making the problem feel urgent. Works well around 250, 350 words maybe, with the call to action coming right after the relief is introduced. Use their exact ground phrases from your persona work here makes it hit home. Second, Hero Snapshot. This is like a condensed version of the classic hero's journey. You introduce a relatable protagonist, often a customer who's just like the segment you're emailing. You show the key obstacle they faced, which is the subscriber's obstacle too. And then you reveal their transformation because they used your solution. This is great for the consideration stage. When they're comparing options, it shows someone like them succeeding with your help. Best kept shorter, maybe 150, 250 words. CTA comes after the transformation is clear. Make sure the hero really matches the segment. Third, before-after bridge 2.0. This one's really streamlined, great for the decision stage to provide that final push. Start with one powerful sentence describing their current before state, the pain, the struggle, then paint a vivid, aspirational picture of the desired after future state. Then, the bridge is your unique mechanism, how your solution specifically delivers that transformation, the secret sauce, often very short, 100, 200 words. The CTA can often be placed right within the bridge section itself. This framework powerfully contrasts the emotional states motivating action now.
How do you weave in credibility or proof points like results without making it sound like a blatant sales pitch right in the middle of the story? Feels tricky.
You embed them naturally within the narrative flow. It's about showing, not just telling. So instead of saying, our template saves you 3 hours, you show the character in the hero's snapshot story, completing in just 30 minutes what used to take her 3 agonizing hours every week. See the difference. It's showing the feature's benefit in action through the story. And use what we call the heartbeat rule. Alternate between moments of tension problem and moments of relief solution, maybe every couple of sentences. It keeps the reader emotionally engaged, riding the waves of the story.
Okay, stories keep them reading, keep them engaged, makes sense. But eventually, you do need them to click. You need that action. How do you make that transition from delivering value through the story to actually asking for the click without it feeling abrupt or, pushy?
That's the art of value CTA fusion. It's all about making the offer, the call to action, feel like the most natural, logical, and helpful next step for them. And one key finding from endless testing, emails with a single, clear call to action almost always get dramatically more clicks than emails trying to give people multiple options. Keep it focused.
Okay, so single focus CPA. But how do you earn the right to even ask for that click in the first place?
Right. By value stacking first. It's about layering multiple pieces of genuine value within that single email before you make your main ask. Don't just give one tip. Maybe combine an insight plus a useful mini template they can use, plus an emotional payoff, like validating their frustration and offering hope. We often use a rough guideline, the call to value ratio, or CTVR, aiming for about 3.1. That means roughly 75% of the email is focused on delivering pure value, teaching, helping, and maybe 25% is focused on the offer or the ask. This builds what we call permission momentum. You earn the click. If you consistently see high open rates but low click-through rates, or your unsubscribe rate starts creeping up, it's a strong signal your value stack might be too thin compared to your asks. You're asking too much too soon.
Okay, give me 5 fast ways anyone could stack more value in their next email. Quick hits.
Okay, quickly. Share a simple mini template or a swipe file snippet. Debunk a common myth or misconception they probably believe about your topic. Provide a concrete shortcut or hack for a common task they struggle with. Reveal one powerful, relevant statistic that makes them think differently. Include a super short 2-sentence case study showing a rapid transformation like a mini hero snapshot. Any of those add instant value.
Love those. Concrete. Okay, so you've stacked the value, told a great story. How do you make the actual transition from the value or the story to the CTA feel smooth, not jarring?
Yeah, avoid those sudden pivots like, okay, value delivered, now buy my thing. Doesn't work. Use a simple transition sentence formula. Briefly recap the value you just delivered, plus use future pacing. Hint at what life could be like if they take the next step, plus then preview the CTA, for example. Okay, now that you have the simple template for outlining your emails faster, if you're ready to see how applying this system everywhere can truly free up hours in your week future pacing, my upcoming workshop shows you exactly how to implement it step-by-step CTA preview. See how it flows. You also want to try and time the CTA well within the email, often placing it just after an insight high, that little dopamine hit they get right after learning something valuable or having an aha moment from your story. And where you physically place the CTA matters too, visually. Mid-copy can work well in longer emails. Often the PS section gets surprisingly high clicks, or even a dedicated sidebar button if your email template supports it. Generally, the first CTA introduced in an email and the one in the PS tend to get the most attention. In a really long-form story ML, placing the main CTA maybe 60% of the way through can be effective, catching them while engagement is high.
And what about the format, like a button versus just a text link? Is one definitively better?
Good question. We actually suggest using both where it makes sense. An inline text link embedded naturally in a sentence can catch skimmers who are already convinced and ready to click immediately. And then a prominent, visually distinct button provides clear emphasis for the main call to action. And please, make sure your links and buttons are accessible. Use good color contrast, plenty of white space around buttons so they're easy to tap on mobile, and use descriptive link text that tells people exactly where they're going. Download the guide, not click here. Super important for usability and for screen readers.
Oh, and the micro commitments. I love this concept. The idea of getting tiny yeses that build momentum towards the bigger ask.
Yes, it's powerful psychology. Engineering micro yes CTAs. These are small, low-friction actions that build momentum. Clicking a link to read a blog post, replying to a simple question, just hit reply and tell me, taking a one-click poll or mini-survey. It taps into the psychological principle of commitment and consistency. People feel a natural pull to align their future actions with their past commitments, even small ones. It helps avoid cognitive dissonance. A small yes today makes saying a bigger yes tomorrow feel much more natural and easier.
And you mentioned a formula for high-performing button copy.
Yeah, a simple but effective one. Start with a clear verb, plus specify the tangible result, plus add a time cue if possible. So not just submit, but get your free template now. Not just learn more, but start saving time today, or claim my discount instantly. It directly answers the reader's implicit questions. What will I get and when will I get it? Also, remember to reduce friction around the CTA itself. Add social proof nearby, like join 10,000 others. Make absolutely sure the landing page they click through to immediately reiterates the benefit they clicked for. Maintain that scent trail. We ran a test once, changing a webinar registration button from the high commitment register now to the lower commitment check available dates. Just checking dates felt like a smaller step, a micro yes. And guess what? Actual attendance increased significantly. So if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, Value CTA Fusion isn't just about tricking people into clicking. It's about making your offer feel like the completely logical, natural, helpful, and even desired next step in the ongoing journey you're guiding them on. It's all built on the foundation of trust and value you've already provided.
That's so powerful. Makes the ask feel helpful, not selfish. Okay, your actionable takeaway for this section. Take an email you sent recently. First, can you identify one more layer of genuine value you could have added before your main ask? And second, can you rewrite your primary button CTA using that verb plus specific result plus time formula we just discussed. Give it a shot. Okay, this has been amazing. We've talked about really knowing your audience deep down, mapping their journey, crafting hooks that actually get them to open, telling compelling stories that keep them reading and engaged, and then getting them to click with clear, value-driven calls to action. So, are we done? Is that the whole system? We just do that and we're golden.
Ha, if only. Not even close, unfortunately. The real difference, the gap between just good results and truly exceptional, sustainable results, lies in systematic optimization, what we call relentless refinement. This isn't a one-and-done setup. It's a continuous cycle. You measure what happened, you form a hypothesis about why it happened, you test a specific change based on that hypothesis, you implement the wins, and then you repeat forever.
Okay, measuring. What metrics should we actually be looking at these days? Open rates are less reliable now with Apple's privacy changes and things like that, right?
Exactly. Open rates are fuzzy now. You need to look deeper at metrics that show real engagement. Click to open rate, CTR, is vital of the people who opened, what percentage clicked. That tells you if your content was relevant and engaging after they got past the subject line. Conversion rate, obviously, did the email actually drive the desired action, a purchase, a registration, etc. That shows if your offer is effective for that segment at that stage. Revenue per 1,000 sends, or RPM, is a great overall health metric because it normalizes performance regardless of list size changes, shows the real monetary impact. Unsubscribe rate is a key indicator of content dissatisfaction. You want that low, generally under 0.5%. Spam complaint rate needs to be practically zero, less than 0.1%, as complaints seriously damage your sender reputation. Bounce rate for list hygiene, keep it under 2%. And if your platform allows it, track engagement depth. How long are people actually spending time reading your email? That, along with CTR, are probably the key indicators now for creative performance in a post-open rate world.
Makes sense. So how do you design tests that actually give you reliable data and truly move the needle, not just random tinkering?
You need structure and discipline. Start with a clear hypothesis based on your data or your persona insights. We believe changing X will improve Y because Z. Isolate one single variable per test seriously, just one. Don't change the subject line and the CTA button copy and the send time all at once. You won't know what worked. Split your audience randomly and ensure the sample size is large enough for statistical significance. Define the test duration and the specific success metric in advance. Don't move the goalposts. We often use the ICE framework score each potential test idea on impact, how big a difference could it make, confidence, how sure are we it will work, and effort. How hard is it to implement? Divide impact x confidence by effort. That helps prioritize which tests to run first.
What are some of the high-impact elements you'd recommend testing first? Where's the low-hanging fruit usually?
Definitely go back to the core frameworks we've discussed today. Test different subject line frameworks against each other. Curiosity versus benefit first for a certain segment. Test different approaches to your preview text. Test the optimal send time or day for key segments. Test different story frameworks, like testing PAR versus hero snapshot for addressing a specific awareness stage problem. Test different CTA copy formulas or button placements. Test the number of value layers you include before the main ask. Is 2 better than 1? Is 3 better than 2? These tie directly into the core levers of persuasion and engagement. What's really fascinating here, when you step back, is this process of relentless refinement transforms your email marketing from just sending out a series of individual messages into building a responsive, intelligent system that actually gets smarter and more effective with every single send based on real feedback from your audience.
That makes so much sense. It becomes a learning engine. How do you make that refinement process systematic, though? So it actually happens regularly instead of just, whenever you feel like tweaking something.
You need a rhythm. We strongly recommend implementing a quarterly improvement cycle. Every 3 months, you dedicate time to audit your key metrics across your main segments and sequences. Look for drop-offs or areas of opportunity. Based on that data analysis, you form specific, testable hypotheses for improvement. Then you run your planned tests during that quarter. At the end of the quarter, you rigorously analyze the results. What worked, what didn't, why. You implement the winning variations as the new baseline, and then you launch the next batch of tests for the following quarter based on what you just learned. You systematically examine your segments, your hooks, your stories, your journey stage alignment, your value CTA balance, and you always look for opportunities to build new, relevant, trigger-based sequences based on observed behavior.
And those small incremental improvements really add up over time. It's not just about finding one magic bullet.
They compound dramatically. It's the magic of compounding gains. 5 small improvements of, say, 5% each don't just give you a simple 25% lift, because they build on each other. They compound to something significantly higher over a year or two. It's why consistent, relentless refinement is ultimately far more powerful than occasionally trying to completely reinvent the wheel with a whole new campaign. You need a North Star metric guiding you. Maybe it's overall revenue per subscriber or total engaged subscribers, something high level. And then you have supporting indicators. If your CTR drops for a sequence, you know immediately to look at your creative, subject line, story intro, first few lines. If your conversion rate drops, you need to review your offer's alignment with the journey stage or the CTA clarity. The metrics guide your focus.
And you document what works along the way. You don't just rely on memory.
Oh, crucially, yes. Please document. Turn your wins into standard operating procedures, SOPs. Document your winning subject line formulas for specific segments, your go-to story frameworks for awareness sequences, your most effective call-to-value ratios. Document your trigger rules and timing. Create checklists for launching a new sequence based on your best practices. Use version control for these SOPs because they should evolve as you learn more through testing. They aren't set in stone. Your SOPs become the living embodiment of the frameworks and best practices you've discovered that work specifically for your audience.
This really elevates email from just sending messages to building a sophisticated system. But this raises an important final question. How do you keep this momentum going quarter after quarter? It sounds like a lot of work. We've gone really deep today on crafting nurture emails that don't just land in the inbox, but emails that genuinely build trust and ultimately drive sales and results. We've covered understanding your audience inside and out, mapping their predictable journey towards making a decision, crafting hooks that actually grab attention and get them to open, telling compelling stories that keep them reading and emotionally engaged, balancing that value delivery with clear, effective calls to action, and the absolute necessity of relentlessly refining everything you do based on real data, not just guesswork.
It truly is a system, isn't it? Built piece by piece, tested, iterated upon, and improved over time. And the skills you're developing here, understanding human psychology, structuring persuasive communication, measuring impact accurately, they're truly foundational. They'll remain relevant and valuable even as the specific platforms and algorithms inevitably change in the future, because people don't fundamentally change that fast.
Think back to that initial challenge we started with. How do you possibly cut through the incredible noise and chaos in today's inbox? By applying these principles consistently, you're not just adding to the noise anymore, you're actually building anticipated conversations, messages people might actually look forward to receiving because they know they'll get value.
And remember, knowledge is most valuable when it's understood deeply and applied systematically. Getting this right isn't just about the features of the product or service you offer, it's fundamentally about the stories you choose to tell, and how well you genuinely understand and connect with the real person on the other side of that screen.
So what does this all mean for you right now as you think about your own emails, your own sequences?
Maybe consider this final thought. If your email sequence is essentially an ongoing story you're telling your subscribers over time, how is that story evolving with them? How is it adapting based on what you're learning from their engagement and their behavior every single day?
Lots to think about.
Thanks for watching Stackfluence. Subscribe for more email content and digital product tips.